Padres fans, let's hop in a time machine and go back to talking about what Bud Black and Will Myers have to say about the San Diego Padres. And no, you don't have to adjust your TV screens. That's a genuine sentence about the 2026 Padres as well. What's going on, everybody? Christian Pedersen back with another episode of Padres Digest, the show that assumes that most of you are actually born and raised and from San Diego. But if not, shout out where you're from and how you came to be a Padres fan. We're going to talk about AJ Cassavell getting some interviews with new Padres front office members, Will Myers and Bud Black. And if you don't remember them, we will educate you on who they are. But before we get to all of that, you know that I got to educate you on Kalshi. Today's video is brought to you by Kalshi. It's America's largest trading network. They got you covered in all 50 states. So Padres fans, no matter where you are at, you can access Kalshi. And right now, if you've not gotten started on there before, you can use the code DIGESTMLB when you hit the link below and sign up, and it'll give you $20 on your first $100 of options that you trade. You don't have to just focus on the Padres the way that we just focus on the Padres. They've got you covered on literally everything. And like I said, we got you covered with the code DIGESTMLB. All right, in case some of you are very, very hyper recent Padres fans, Bud Black was a former manager for the San Diego Padres. It's been a minute now that he's been the Colorado Rockies manager. The Padres parted way with him kind of before all of this got going in terms of Peter Seidler coming in and spending. One of the transitionary pieces in that whole puzzle also was Will Myers, a player who started under Bud Black, played for a couple more years. Both of these guys have since departed, obviously, Black to go manage the Rockies, Will Myers to go play for the Reds for a season. They're back now in front office capacities, and AJ Cassavell came out with this. And so apologies in advance as I queue up here a little bit of reading that I will do for us, but I wanted to just kind of get to the sound bites and dissect. Look, it's January 21st. P's and C's aren't reported yet. Most of the moves are done. We're kind of in the slow part of the year. So, yeah, this might not be huge headline-y news, but I think there's some interesting nuggets in all of this. And the first part, just to me, for the interesting nuggets is the role. This is from Cassavell's article. The role for Myers and Black are wide-ranging and largely undefined. Black will work more with the major league group. He offered himself as, quote-unquote, a sounding board to first-time manager Craig Stammen. He'll have a voice in the front office as well. Myers, meanwhile, expects to contribute on the minor league side, working with the organization's hitters. He'll travel to Padres affiliates across the minors and speak with those young hitters. Having covered Myers during 8 seasons, I suspect he'll have plenty to say. Part number one of it being largely undefined roles, I absolutely effing love that. I give the taking one step back. Maybe the pie chart is a lot of little slices for what goes into like a truly good organization. It can't just be that the final product is, of course, yeah, if Manny and Fernando are bashing all-star level slugging percentages, and if Nick Pavetta's winning 20 games, and if Mason Miller's, yes, that is how the Padres might execute on the field to be World Series champions, but I largely believe that it is a full, complete organization that is most likely to win the World Series or to maintain consistently being in the conversation. So giving these guys a chance to get back in the Padres organization, because I think that both of these guys represent really, to me, Bud Black is a good manager in the sense of you don't tend to get clubhouses that turn on him, and it's never really been reported that he's that like confrontational of a dude. And given that Craig Stammen is already co-manager with Ruben Niebla, and now that you got a sounding board of another manager in the house, it just kind of feels like Craig Stammen doesn't really have all that much pressure. Not that an MLB manager has a ton of pressure on him, but it feels like maybe Craig Stammen really doesn't have to like do this on his own. And I'm stoked for that. If you disagree with Bud Black's qualifications and bona fides, get at me in the comment section. For Myers, him going down into the minors, I think is really fantastic because Myers is both sides of the story. Like, he was a top prospect. He was an AL Rookie of the Year, but then he's also a guy who was straddled with massive expectations and didn't ever really, whether or not those expectations were realistic, never fully sustained that level of greatness that was surrounding his hype. And that can be, maybe it's not Campy and Turso, but that can be the group of guys immediately behind them in terms of MLB players that come up with expectations, but now can handle them better because Will, here, AJ's next quote was, with Will, I think there's a side of him the players can easily relate to because I do think that he'll be open and honest with them as far as the trials and tribulations that players go through. Bud Black said. Myers endured a share of trials and tribulations in San Diego, top draft pick, highly prosecuted. Yeah, so AJ hits it on the head here, which I think that you can have somebody come in, like we were talking about Albert Pujols in the offseason. There's a little bit of a non-sequitur. You can have someone come in who's like, I hit more home runs and more. We saw this when Tony Gwynn was the SDSU coach. Not everybody at SDSU hit 300 because sometimes Tony was teaching trigonometry on hands and feet and timing and all this stuff, and some guys just needed geometry to be able to get a little bit better. And so to have a guy who's both like, hey, I can teach you about the hitting, but I can also teach you about the mental like struggles and pitfalls of the game. That's how many times have we had a guy come up who's hot in the minors, but then kind of succumbs to the moment and it takes longer than just that one weekend to get him into the rotation because you got a little bit of a setback. And then it's like, okay, well, we're setting it back down, but now he knows what it's like. That whole process is where Will Myers can infuse himself there. And I think that that's part of the depth that the Padres need, at least at some point. Like I said, whether it's Campy and Turso and first wave guys, or if it's by the middle of the season, his impact to me feels like it will be felt. And AJ continues talking about how baseball can be unforgiving. There are lessons to learn from his career. Will Myers, though, I just wanted to get to his quote at the bottom there. I think every player, when they're done, thinks about some things that could have helped them at a time where they were struggling, Myers said. I think it would be cool to be able to express those things to some of the players. So maybe the TLDR tying this all together is the support system for the Padres is being built out in a really cool way that for some of the other recent, it's been like Mark Loretta was bobbing around the organization and Trevor was bobbing around, but I don't know, man, these guys feel like Bud Black and Will Myers feel like maybe just it's thick nostalgia that I've got of like they were that perfect little like, remember when the Padres were going up like this? But maybe that means the Padres can get a little bit of that back and catch a little bull run this year. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Nothing really too actionable or specific on this, but down to have the conversation. And as always, if you want to hit the subscribe button, never going to hate you for it. Talk to you guys next time.